What's going on, everybody? So out of all the videos I've made, this is going to be my first negative video about Honkai Star Rail. I'm not gonna doom post or anything like that, but I think that this is something that Honkai Star Rail should absolutely fix, especially looking at Hoyoverse's other games. So let's talk about it, right? So it's kind of like a well-known fact in the Honkai Star Rail community at this point that we get no events in the game at all. Right, this is not a video I want to make, but looking at 3.5 and seeing in 3.4 as well and seeing how there's just no events, I think it's ridiculous, right? I'll use 3.3 as an example to really, emphasize how much Honkai Star Rail is lacking in terms of quantity, right? The quality is there, I'll say that, right? I think the story is great, especially Euphorius. It's just so Honkai coded. I love it, right? Euphorius, great. The events that we do get, even if they're few and far between, they're good. They're short, but they're good, right? I like every event that we had in Honkai Star Rail so far. I don't think there's any like big misses other than way back in 1.1. The map exploration and then the new regions that are added are great, but there's just not enough, right? 3.3 as an example, I did the story in the first about like week and a half, and then after that I had the map exploration, which it really doesn't amount to that much in terms of quantity. And by the time we got to the halfway mark in phase 2 of 3.3, I had nothing to do but my dailies, and I have been doing nothing but my dailies up until today when 3.4 drops. And even though 3.4 is the most hyped I've ever been for a patch for this game, I know it's not gonna last. I know the story is going to be short. I know the map exploration is going to be short because we're only getting one new region, and I'm going to have to wait again until July 11th to get the fake collab stuff, which is also not going to last that long. So what am I getting at here, right? What I want to know is where are the events in Honkai Star Rail? People say that Planar Fisher and the other the 2x drop events count as event slots. But I don't think that event slots should be a thing, right? We should have as many events as we can cram into one patch. Weekly events, right? Maybe we can get 2 events per week. It's really not that out of the question, considering, I hate bringing up Hoyoverse's other games in Honkai Star Rail videos, but I feel like I have to in this case, right? I don't play Genshin or Zenless, right? I don't play these games, right? I do the story, but I don't play them. I don't open up the events tab, so I have no idea what's going on gameplay wise. But Genshin Impact has about 4 events per patch, which is 2 times more than we get on average for Honkai Star Rail. And then Zenless has like 7-8 events per patch. And I understand that Zenless is not, it doesn't have map exploration like Genshin or even Star Rail, right? There's really not too much to do other than the events, which is kind of like the main, that's the main thing that you're going to be doing in Zenless Zone Zero. But even Honkai Impact as well. I'm not gonna bring up other Hoyoverse games without touching upon Honkai Impact. Honkai Impact recently has started to slow down on events, but if we take a look at archives dating back to 2019, 2020, even 2018, this game used to have so many events, right? In Honkai Impact, people don't want to consider part of the Hoyoverse games like Star Rail and Genshin, but it is one of them, right? Same 6-week patch cycle, although that is starting to get extended now. I mean, I haven't said why, but for most of Honkai Impact's lifespan, it's updated in 6 weeks, just like the modern Hoyoverse games, releasing 1 S rank per patch. It follows the same formula as the modern games, just a little bit different, right? It's not open, not really any exploration, even the monetization's different, but it's still there, right? It's still a Hoyoverse game. They still had so many events, right? 10 plus events per patch. And when we take a look at Honkai Star Rail after that, 2 events per patch is ridiculous, right? And when I say events, obviously this should go without saying, but I mean like actual gameplay events, right? I'm not talking about Planar Fisher. I'm talking about like gameplay, right? Something like O'Malley. And 3.4 had the perfect opportunity to start raising the amount of events that we had per patch. We could have had you know, the main, just just for reference, we could have had the main fake collab event. We could have had maybe like a secondary like small event tied to the fake collab, but maybe a little bit different, not too sure how. We could have had two more events stayed for summer, right? Because 3.4 is dropping in the peak, the apex of summer, right? And then Origami Bird Clash on top of that. That will be an easy 5 events right there. And if Honkai Impact used to do 10 plus per patch, Honkai Star Rail can definitely find a way to double that amount from 5 to 10 as well. But instead they opt for 2 events and there's just nothing to do, right? If we were talking 2 really long events, that'd be cool. That'd be chill, right? I'd prefer quantity over quality for events. I'm not gonna lie, some variation will be nice, but if these were long, meaningful events, that would be great. But the events in Honkai Star Rail on average last about 2 hours of gameplay. Whether you skim through the dialogue or not, it's like 2 hours. Sometimes if you're lucky 3 hours, but sometimes they can be as short as 1 hour, right? 3.4, which is, you know, smack dab in the middle of summer, the perfect time to do a whole, like a shitload of events, has 2 events, dude. 2 events in 3.4. There's Origami Bird Clash and then the fake collab, and that's it. And 3.5's events got leaked, right? The 3.5 beta is out now. And I thought, you know, even though it is halfway through August, they could have done something for like summer or anything at 3.5. No. Yet again, 2 events. 3 if you want to count the assignments event that we get on a yearly basis, like, you know, all about Boot Hill, that kind of thing. But I don't really count that, right? That's more like a 2 times drop event, like in like that kind of category. So 3.5 yet again has 2 events. There's nothing to do in Honkai Star Rail. When there actually is stuff to do, it is a fun ass game, dude. It is so bomb to play, but then as soon as you're done with the content, you got nothing to do for 4 weeks, bro. It's bad. And you can take a look at the content I make. I'm nothing but positive about this game. Some people will say I'm bootlicking. I'm not. I'm honest at the end of the day. I may be optimistic about the game, but I'm also honest, right? If I see something that I don't like, I'm gonna call it out. You're right, I'll always call it out. And this literally is my only issue with Honkai Star Rail. There's just nothing to do. You know, you can go grind out Divergent Universe, but even then, it doesn't take that long to get to the max level. And especially for the way that Divergent Universe is now with the Protean Hero, once you get to the max level, you have to wait 3 patches for the next expansion, which is only another 20 levels. So there literally is nothing to grind. You can, you know, use your stamina on top of your dailies, but like that's time gated. You get what I mean? You gotta wait for that. Honkai Star Rail doesn't have to do 13 events per patch like Honkai Impact did back in its prime, but anything more than 2 would be appreciated, right? And yet again, I don't like bringing up other Hoyoverse games, but when we look at Genshin specifically, right? Tell me why Genshin has so much more quantity than Honkai Star Rail. There is a lot, way more map expansion. We're talking like just exploration, right? Like maybe 10 times the amount of exploration that Honkai Star Rail has, you know, on average per patch, if not more, right? The world of Genshin overall is a lot more big than Honkai Star Rail's regions. And on top of that, Genshin also has more events, right? People call it time slots. We don't need event slots in Honkai Star Rail or any gacha. Just do events and like I honestly I don't know what to say. Yo, Honkai Impact really proved that they can do multiple events, right? And Honkai Impact is an old game, right? But I still view it the same as the other 3 Hoyoverse games. I don't see it any different. And the 6-week patch cycle, the 6-week patch cycle for Honkai Impact should show that, right? It should prove that. I think this really about it though. I have nothing else to say. I think it's crazy. 2 events per patch. It's actually mind-blowing. I thought they would have fixed it in 3.4, which is why I didn't say anything about it for so long. But We're heading into 3.5 now, and there's still nothing that they're gonna do about it. They're buffing old units, which is great. Congrats, we're buffing older units that can still clear the endgame with the right builds and team comps. Forget that. Just give us more things to do in the game. But I'm not hating on the buffs. I'm really not. I'm just I'm talking about nothing at this point. But that's about it. I'll see you. Goodbye.